How you doing? Thank you for accepting to do the podcast.
Yeah, pleasure.
Yeah, I mean, I give you a little. I was working with a business that was doing manufacturing. They were making furnaces for melting aluminum. So I started
Mhm.
looking into other people in LinkedIn that were in that realm. I came across your LinkedIn and started seeing your pictures. And I was blown away. I'm like, okay, I have to follow this guy.
Thank you.
What can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where you live, what you do? Just
All right. It's kind of simple, you know. Many of my followers are viewing me as a professional photographer, but the truth is that I'm a hobby photographer. You know, this whole steel sector is just kind of hobby out of control. I completely lost control over it that was like last 14 years. I'm doing nothing else than visiting the mills all around the world. And besides that, I'm into real estate. So yeah, that's my background, and the steel industry is just my hobby.
where was it born? Like, what was the first thing? Did you just always love industry, or what was the first
Oh,
spark that got you to start photographing that?
yeah, that's a good question. You know, from both sides, like from my mother's side and my father's side, we always been connected to the industry. It was not strictly the steel industry, but there was the mine. There were some miners from my father's side, plus some economic directors in some machining shops from my mother's side. And yeah, let's say the industry was not a bad word, you know. It was viewed like something okay, that's just part of our lives. And my uncle was a professional photographer, and when I was like yes, you know, that's the background. You know, I've never been viewing the gray irons smoking giants on the horizon as something bad. It was just part of it. And when I was let's say 12 or 12, 13, don't remember, my family took me for a holidays to Beskedy Mountains, which is on the eastern part of my country, the Czech Republic. And on the way back home, we were crossing Třinec. And as you probably know, Třinec is the home of one of the biggest steel plants in my country. And my father just stopped the car nearby the river just to show me how a big metallurgical combine looks. So he stopped the engine, and I got out of the car, and suddenly there was it. You know, there was the huge blast furnace just beyond the river, and I thought to myself, and I was like 12, 13. Oh wow, this is it. And since that, I couldn't live without it. You know, I completely fell in love with the steel industry, and that's it. And after the high school, I simply bought my first camera and visited the first mine which was nearby, and I'm doing the same since today. So this is this easy.
Your first time, so your first time was with 12, 13 when you saw it from the outside. Do you remember
Yeah.
the first time you got to go inside one?
Uh, yeah, that was the mine. That was a coal mine. It was not a steel mill. My first experience with the steel, with the heavy industry, was a mine in Kladno, which is around 20 minutes from where I live. And you know, I knew that this mine will be demolished because it was shut down like 5 years before, and I couldn't live with that fact that this beautiful mine will disappear. So I simply walked in, talked to the guards, and they were okay. Do as much pictures as you wish, and and that was it. You know, that was the start of my career. I just started absolutely spontaneously, without any photographic background, without anything. I just bought the camera and entered the first industrial facility. And it was amazing, and it's still amazing. Every new plant I enter, it's the same amusement.
What do you feel like? You remember the history, or like what it gives to people, or what the steel creates? Like what goes through your mind when you're inside taking the pictures?
You know, it's absolutely irrational. It's just I can't describe it. It's a feeling when I enter a mill. It's the same, or when I see a blast furnace on the horizon, it's the same feeling. Like if you or your audience or anyone is coming back in memories to your childhood or to Christmas time or visit to your grandparents. It's something that warm and nice and welcoming. And I have the very same feeling whenever I see a steel mill on the horizon or a head frame or whatever, or a chimney. It's I don't really care about the but yeah, I do care, of course. But the most important thing is the feeling. It's just continuously repeating the warm feeling I had for the first time. It's a pure love, I would say. But besides that, as you asked, sure, the steel industry, the heavy industry is absolutely marvelous sector. You have the rich history plus the thousands of people who are finding work in the mill, plus the whole culture. In Germany they have a beautiful word for that. That's the Industriekultur, the industrial culture, which is a huge bag of everything connected to the industry. And unfortunately many people don't see that. They just see a smoking stack and pollution, and that's it. So just get rid of it, and don't really care about the background. Yeah. So.
No, I think like I really appreciate the history more. When I go traveling, I rather go to an old place and be listening to like, oh, you're walking beside this step where Francois or whoever did this, and that connects me. I love that stuff. So I'd rather go to old places that have history. And I started looking into the history of mills and the Industrial Revolution and all that stuff, and it's just fascinating. And
it is.
I go back into your pictures and I stare and I read your caption. It's sound like all these old giants just dying around you, right? And it makes me think like, well, I know what you're saying. Some people now see it in a negative because they don't want to think. They just want to see the caption. They want to read the caption. Oh, this is bad, and they'll follow that. But they don't think, well, this gave thousands of people jobs and really took a poor country into a decent country. Did you see a lot of these steel mills dying around in Europe? Where you're from? Like I'm in Canada, so I don't even know what's the nearest steel mill around me. So maybe you can shine a light to us over what's going on over there.
Where are you from exactly, by the way? I'm just curious.
I was in Northern Ontario in Canada, where it's a little bit more closer to Sudbury, where there's one of the biggest gold mines. But right now I'm more towards Toronto. I moved down to Toronto.
So you have Hamilton nearby. That's a steel town. So at least something. Anyway, So what was the question? If I have seen many mills
what's it over there? Like, are you seeing a lot of mills, steel mills shutting down around you?
Too many of them. That's the sad part of my project. Right now I have something around 250 mills in my collection, in my archive, and it's crazy. Like 25 or 30% of the archive is already history, which is insane. I'm 36, and I already know so many mills that doesn't exist anymore, and even even the guys of my generation doesn't even know there was a mill before. They were just passing it every day and didn't realize there was some steel production going. So yeah, I see two, yeah, not many, but too many mills dying, and the numbers is increasing every year. And I'm afraid this COVID crisis will only accelerate it, because those small, already struggling mills simply cannot make it. Plus, you are in Canada, so you don't have these emission permissions. Yeah, emission permission, which is something absolutely unreal here in European Union. You have to pay for every product, for every produced ton of steel. It's like, I don't know, 25 or 30 euro for 1 ton, which is, that's crazy. You you pay all your profit on the emission permission, while you are overloaded with Chinese scrap and stuff. So yeah, the future is not really bright here in Europe.
You just think like over regulation, and then the Chinese making a lot of steel is kind of slowly or fast killing all the industry and
Absolutely.
industry. And yeah, that's pretty sad. Yeah. And how do you go about finding these places, these mills, and then getting permission to go photograph them? I bet there's a lot of red tape and a lot of people, scuffing you, not even you returning your email. How do you go about that?
Well, first, how I'm finding them, it's really simple, from Google Earth. I spent like, yeah, it sounds funny, but that's how it is. I spent like hundreds of hours on Google Earth, and even now, when I have time, I just jump on Google Earth and flying over some regions which I'm aware that there is some industrial production going. And from the satellite map, when you see a dark place, that's where to zoom in. And when I zoom in, I just find more information about it, and that's it. The world of the steel industry is relatively small. So basically, when you Google one thing, then you find out it's part of some group. So you find more companies which are related to, and yeah, it's quite simple then. But the very beginning is from Google Earth,
Yeah.
Which is, for example, in China, is absolutely fascinating to fly over some Shaanxi regions or Liaoning or things like that. It's just a different universe. Yeah, so that's how it is. And the second question was,
how do you go about getting permission?
yeah. Oh, yeah, that's the tough part. Getting the permission, it depends on country. For example, Canada is absolutely insane in getting the permission. Seriously, I tried every single mill in Canada and got permission only to Hamilton, to Dofasco, and that's it. And then the coronavirus came, so I didn't even go to Canada. Yeah, so it depends on the country. For example, in Russia or in Ukraine, it's just one email and you can come next week. It's ridiculous. But for example, Austria, United Kingdom, Norway, Finland, absolutely sealed countries, very, very difficult to go in. But basically, how I do it is I just compose a letter and send them an email, and that's it. And when you send an email, you have few options. Either you'd have no reply, or denying reply, or positive reply. And the positive replies are, let's say, around 10%, and the rest is just no reply plus some negative replies, and that's it. And the thing is, when I got a denying reply, when I got no, I just try a different email address from the same company. So that's how it is. yeah.
Someone wait say yes, and then they'll figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure and I know there are some companies who really hates me already. For example, some in Austria, because I'm constantly spamming them every year, and yeah, it's not really turning out.
Do you have one trip or one meal that you want to photograph that stands out from your heart, and you're saying like, oh, that's just been incredible story that you can tell us?
Hmm. Well, every meal is special, but hmm, it's a tricky question. Yeah, but maybe Donetsk style in Ukraine, in Donbass, that was really something. I was there in 2012. Donetsk style was one of the oldest combines in whole Ukraine. It was built like 1865 or something like that, and it's absolutely insane. Just imagine one territory, one site, and you have a coal mine, coke plant, blast furnace, open hard shop, rolling mills, plus one special thing. And when we were walking around the ore yard, I noticed very strange orange yellow smoke coming up from one very old building. So I asked my guide, and keep in mind that was 2012, and I asked him what the hell is going on over there, and he told me, "Oh, that's nothing. That's just Bessemer converter. Bessemer converter in 2012. That's absolutely unreal. Those things were shut down in Europe in 60s, somewhere in 50s already, and they're still running it. So yeah, that was absolutely insane. And why I would like to come back is that this mill was completely shut down because of the Cold War the hot war in Donbass, and was so heavily damaged by the how it's called, by the bombing and heavy artillery.
Yeah.
So they resumed the production completely, and to my knowledge, it's not working anymore now. So yeah, I would definitely, if I could turn back the time, I would come back there and do more pictures and speak to more people. And yeah, that was extraordinary.
Is there one mill that got away? One that you keep thinking, maybe it's shut down now it's gone, or I really wish I could have had the opportunity. Then once go to sleep at night and you think about that one, almost like an old girlfriend that didn't work out.
Yeah. I'm having nightmares almost every day, because there are so many mills I would love to visit, but they are gone already. Let's say even in Canada, let's start with Canada, as you are from that country. Hamilton, the Stelco in Hamilton, that former U.S. steel company, that was unbelievably beautiful. Or if I move to the east, to the Detroit, Duke Island and all those old mills, or stretching across the Rust Belt. This will be a very long monologue if I should mention every mill I would love to visit, but it's too late. Yeah, the list is too long, and getting longer every week.
Is there one that's still active that you're still pursuing? Maybe someone who listens to this, sees the video, has a contact to help you out to make the connection.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind those in Canada, like Algoma. Yeah, it's Algoma Steel. And what's the name of Lake Erie Works. That's part of Stelco. That would be wonderful. Yeah. So if you have an audience from Canada and there are some guys from Algoma or Stelco, just keep in mind that there is some guy overseas who would love to visit your mill, and yeah, that would be nice.
Pictures. Yeah. Is your steel project, the love of steel, is it personally funded, or is there a group of multiple people that donate to it? Like how do you pay for flying and all that stuff?
Yeah, that was a good one. No, nobody's paying me. That's I just supported myself. It's a hobby, and a very expensive hobby, to be honest with you. But I don't really have many other big hobbies, so this one just consumed most of my money, which are not for the family budget.
Yeah. If is it possible for people that appreciate what you're doing and see a reason of why you should keep going, that how they could donate to your organization?
It sounds nice, but I don't really like this donation idea. Otherwise, I would open some Patreon account already, or things
I
like
see.
that, or OnlyFans.com or something.
Yeah,
I don't really like that. It's like a paid uh, paid support, and I wouldn't feel well about it.
I see.
When you are paid for your hobby, then you need to have some responsibility for your donators and expect they will need something back one day, and I don't like that. So
And it
I
changes the relationship that you have with what you're doing, right?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I'd rather ruin myself than opening a Patreon account.
I see. Is there anything else that you'd like to let viewers know about what you're doing, uh, about steel industry, anything?
Hmm. Yeah, well, what I'm doing, if they follow me or came across my website, which is not really that difficult, because when you type blast furnace into Google, my website will be probably the first one to show up. So they probably know what I'm doing. But what I would like to tell the audience, which is not really aware of me, is the fact that one thing should be changed, and that's the negative approach towards photographers coming into the mills, because that doesn't really put good light on the company, because when you restrict something and put photographers outside, it just doesn't look good. It's suspicious that you are hiding something. But the most important thing, I know dozens of companies I was trying to get into to get permission, and were getting constantly no. And one day they just bankrupt and the mill disappeared, and there are literally no pictures at all. So if I could uh, send a message to those PR managers and communications experts, is simple. Just let the photographers in, and doesn't need to be me, and just keep an eye on the future, and don't let your mail disappear without any picture, any single photograph. And I don't mean these shiny crappy PR stuff, these marketing photographs which are absolutely telling nothing about the production. They are just good for some website and brochure stuff. But the real industrial photography, the real industrial documentation of the processes should not be ignored. And that's very important. And many companies still acting like that. They just hate to leave a footprint in history.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Victor. I don't know anything else I could add to that. I think that's a wonderful message.
Thank you.